Actually, the asset management business, in my opinion, is a very simple business. There's no need to unnecessarily complicate matters.
Right.
So the focus is not on maximizing returns. The focus is on minimizing permanent losses.
Time and again, market generosity does not extend beyond a certain point of time.
How can this ever become irrelevant?
I think that's the innate nature of investing. That is what.
It is important to be consistently good. It is simply not important to try and be the best.
So we spoke about a quality company with a track record, right? Now I would want to ask you a question about, let's say, a newly listed company which doesn't have any track record of execution. How would you exactly evaluate these kind of companies?
Actually, it is very simple. We don't invest in new companies.
Okay. Right.
There's a reason for it.
Right.
There are important inputs that we consider, and that inputs about the management's approach towards capital allocation,
Right.
towards handling of minority shareholders' interests, their dividend policy and the consistency of dividend policy, or their willingness and transparency in meeting the investment community during good times and bad. All of these things will be known only when there's a track record. And since I'm not a early stage investor, so I don't attempt to be.
Right.
Because we need these inputs in our decision making, we stay away from new companies. As I said, I don't mind losing opportunities. I
Right.
don't want to lose money.
Right. Right.
That's it.
Right.
There are very good early stage investors. I'm not one of them.
Understood, sir. Understood. So, a specific question on macros. I think the relevance or the kind of talk that goes on today with respect to geopolitical risks, with respect to macros, with respect to interest rates, or let's say with respect to anything that is affecting your portfolio today. I think it finds more relevance today before you make an investment decision, or has it always been so relevant, or
It has always been.
it has always been?
It is just that, okay, from the time our investment careers began, I think the importance of global events has only increased in our, because FIs are an active participant in Indian stock market today. Globalization is at a higher level today than what it was when we began our investment career. So all these things are relevant.
Right.
But at the same time, we should know our limitations, because of course we should make an attempt to follow these things. We should keep them at the back of our mind and study as much as possible about these events.
Right.
But there is very little that you and I can do about them.
Absolutely.
That should be understood and appreciated.
Right.
So our effort really is in building a portfolio that will withstand these shocks, even if these shocks were to come, rather than trying to predict how the world will move.
True.
So I give the example, a metaphor of when people ask me this question. Supposing you're an architect who has been commissioned to build a house next to the sea,
Right.
and the client wants you to build a house so that he's not affected by the tsunami. Okay. So your effort should not be in predicting when the next tsunami will come.
True.
Your effort is to build a house that is strong enough to withstand a tsunami, even if it does come.
Right.
Same thing for a portfolio manager.
Right.
I don't know when the next big shock is going to come. I don't even pretend to understand.
Right.
But I'm confident that if I buy a strong company and not overpay for it, the chances of it surviving that financial tsunami are higher.
Got it.
It will also be affected, but
it.
it will be probably affected less.
Understood. So, I had a question on the number of investors or the surge in the number of investors, retail investors coming into the market in the last 5 years. We have seen a very non-linear surge in this. Though financial inclusion is going to be a theme that India is going to look forward to in the next decade, do you think this non-linear upsurge in the last 5 years is particularly healthy?
You're talking only of the last 5 years.
Right.
I have some data on this one. If you take direct equity exposure plus mutual fund exposure as a percentage of financial savings, in 2017, India had 6.3% in equity and in mutual funds.
Right.
In 2021, it fell to 2.4%.
Right.
Again, in 2023, it rose to 4.3%. I don't have the data for 2024, but I'm very confident it will be much more than 4.3%.
Right. Right.
So it's always a cycle. I remember in 1992 also, it was much higher than normal during those times. So it is a cycle. And it is not a bad thing per se if retail money comes into the equity market. It's not a bad thing because we have seen a rise in the number of mutual funds, equity mutual funds, index funds, and ETFs, and so on and so forth, and also indirectly money coming to the equity market through provident funds and pension funds and so on and so forth. It's not a bad thing.
Right.
But what is more important, in my opinion, is what we buy and at what price we buy.
True.
These are far more important than these few percentage points. So
Understood.
I think I will not be against retail money coming into the equity market, but we have to be careful about what actually is the holding.
Speaking on that, sir, you would have seen multiple new investors coming into the market, getting enamored by trends, and most of the time they make mistakes, right? You tend to make mistakes on certain things that you're new to. So what is the one common mistake or a few common mistakes that you've seen new investors do?
See, we also been new investors,
Right.
so we also made mistakes.
Right, right.
And I'm sharing this with your viewers because I don't want them to repeat the same mistake I made.
Absolutely.
One mistake which they should stay away from, in my suggestion, is equating the quality of the company to its share price movement.
Right. Right.
That is not the right thing to do.
Absolutely. Yes.
And again, I will repeat the earlier point which I made, which is trying to earn the maximum return at all points of time. It is simply not necessary. It is very important to be consistently good. It is not at all important to try and be the best.
Right.
So if this mistake investors stay away from, they'll not do too badly for themselves.
Right. Speaking on that, sir, I think none of us or none of the new investors want to be a boring investor because they feel, as the name suggests, it's too boring. They always follow trends and they always want to follow what is hot today in the markets, right? Do you identify yourself as a boring investor? And if you are a boring investor, what drives you to be boring?
Tell me about it. Are you kidding me?
Right.
I have not just been called as a boring investor, I have been trolled over it.
Okay, right.
Okay. But I am not ashamed to admit it. I am a boring investor.
Right.
Right? Let's understand the reason for it.
Correct.
It is my opinion that the most important ingredient in managing third party money is the trust that you earn of the person who's writing the check. Right? And trust comes with when you observe consistency of behavior.
Right.
And consistency is boring.
Correct.
So if I am a boring investor, I am not ashamed to admit it. I am not here for the applause. I am here to manage somebody else's money in a manner that I think is logical.
Right.
So if it happens to be boring, so be it.
Wonderful. So with this DIY investing that new investors come with, right? Most of the time it's because they want to be or they want to prove something to the investment world, or they want to prove to themselves that they are able to do it, because I think execution today has become very easy. With that being said, some people might have an apprehension towards paying a fee to an advisor or a fund manager as well. How do you look at this aspect of investing, sir?
It is not if you have the time to do it, if you have the temperament to do it, certainly you can do it. It's not something that is God given or anything of the kind.
Right.
But it is also important to recognize that not everybody has all the skills in equity investing.
Right.
Let's say you're a in the medical profession. You may be a very good ophthalmologist. But if you have a problem with your kidney or your heart, you're not going to treat yourself. You probably go to the right kind of person.
Right.
So, similarly, there are different kinds of equity investors. So, it is always better to diversify. You don't have to over diversify. You have to diversify across 3, 4, 5 different products, and mostly fund managers who follow 3, 4, 5 different approaches. Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Speaking of myself, I also entrust my money to third party mutual funds and people like that. So
Right.
it's perfectly fine.
Right.
Please understand that everybody can't do everything on their own.
Right. Very true. Very true.
So it's not bad if you try to do it yourself, but it's always good if you give part of your money to people who follow a different method.
Right. Understood, sir. Understood. So let's say there are investors who choose financial products today, right? Speaking on financial products, you choose a financial product, but the expectation that the fund manager gives you is not high, or rather they are enamored by performance, right? For an investor, I think for a layman or an investor who is not into markets, for them the performance is the only tool that they have for comparison of different financial products. So they tend to be a little, or rather it is not acceptable if a fund manager comes and gives a very reasonable return expectation. They probably would say, if your return expectations are unreasonable, I will give you my money. If you are reasonable, I won't give you my money. What do you think this aspect of, or this thinking, does it have to be of giving some reasonable expectation by a fund manager? Do you think people should stay with those fund managers, or any unreasonable expectations can also be given a lot of...
Again, I am speaking my personal opinion. If somebody gives you an opinion that you consider unreasonable,
Right.
there's really no business to give money to that person.
True.
Because you think it's unreasonable yourself.
Absolutely.
So, therefore, it's also important to remember one thing. No investment product that includes mutual funds or PMSs or AIFs or any other investment product is consistently at the top of the performance chart ever, anywhere in the world.
Right.
So it's important, and again, I'm coming back to the same thing. It's better to be good rather than trying to be the best. Because there are advantages. If you are focused on investing in good products, you can invest in 4 or 5 of them simultaneously.
Right.
If you want to invest only in the best products, you can choose only one.
Very true. That is true.
And the best keeps changing.
Right.
So it's something that a potential investor has to keep in mind.
Understood, sir. Understood. So now a question on your PMS products, the core value fund. It was very interesting to look at the fact that you had mentioned that you don't compete, you just complement. Could you elaborate on that, sir?
Let's look at the environment under which we are operating.
Right.
There are hundreds of portfolio managers and mutual fund managers. Right? Almost all of them have degrees from leading institutions.
Right.
MBAs, chartered accountancy gold medalists, CFA charter holders,
Right.
All of them have been blessed with roughly the same level of intelligence.
Right.
All of them have modern computerized databases at their fingertips.
Right.
All of them have Bloomberg terminals.
Right.
All of them attend the same analyst meet and read the same transcripts.
Right.
All of them read the same annual reports. All of them read the same newspapers and magazines and watch the same business channels.
Right.
So, in this environment, can anybody reasonably claim to have superiority in terms of analytical abilities or information availability? Does it make sense to you?
Does it? Right. True.
No. Therefore, it is our opinion that an investment product competing on the basis of superior returns alone is not a sustainable way to compete.
Right.
There is something else which I think is more important.
Right.
And that something else is the approach followed towards investing. So this is where I think a clear articulation of the approach followed is very essential. And the client or his advisor should choose from a suite of products that are following different approaches to investing. The goal is long-term capital appreciation, but there are pathways that are different.
Right.
And it's important for a client to have a mix of different products that complement each other.
Right.
In 1 year, this product may do better. In another year, this product may do better. But it's important to choose both.
Right.
So this is what we really believe, and that is why that tagline came about.
Understood. So another thing that was very interesting when I looked at your PPT was that your performance fee and how it is structured. It's very interesting because you don't use any hurdle rate which is fixed to determine the performance fees for your clients. It instead looks at the benchmark returns and your alpha creation over and above the benchmark returns. I think it's a very unique product in that sense. How did this thought come about, sir, to structure the performance fee this way?
See, it's not. It was unique when it started, but I think it's been done in other companies also right now. Now, I think the thought process is as a result of our own learning experiences earlier.
Right.
Normally, we encourage a fixed fee kind of concept because it is non-complicated, it is understood by everybody, and it is clean.
Right.
The variable fee, some people in the industry, there are industry practices which keep a 10% hurdle rate, and there's a 20% performance fee charged if you cross the hurdle rate in any 1 year. That's the norm.
Right.
But it has to be remembered that in the last 10 years, the market itself has given more than 10% on 7 occasions.
Right.
If you take the last 25 years, the market has given more than 20% on 7 occasions.
Right.
And the market has given more than 50% on 4 occasions. Right?
Right.
Now, in a year in which the market gives 50% return, if the portfolio manager also gives 50%, then that hurdle rate is beaten by 40%.
Right.
And if you charge 20% performance fee, the client ends up paying 8% for a single year.
Right.
And the fund manager has not outperformed.
Right.
So what we have done is, we have linked our performance fee to the outperformance over the BSE 500 index. And it's only when there is a positive outperformance that we will charge a performance fee.
Right.
So if the index grows up by 40 and we grow up by 45, the performance fee is charged on the 5%.
5%. Got it.
Number 2, if the index falls by 10% and we fall by 5, then also there is an alpha.
Right.
But we don't charge any fee on that year because it's a negative alpha.
Understood, sir. Understood.
So I think it's the basic premise of all this is the fee paid and it should be fair to all 3 parties concerned.
Right.
The person who's writing the check, the distributor or the wealth advisor who's advising the client,
Right.
and the manufacturer, which is the asset management company.
Right.
All 3 parties' interests should be protected.
Right.
That's the thinking behind it.
Understood, sir. So any conversation today, right, I don't think it can go without the inclusion of these 2 words, artificial intelligence. Right? You see artificial intelligence or methods used by artificial intelligence across different investment strategies today. Do you think traditional investment strategies will still hold ground, let's say in the next decade, with the advent of AI?
I think so, and it's also in my interest to think so.
Right.
Number 2, it's not that artificial intelligence will completely take over. I think products will come.
Right.
Based on computerized, systems of generating portfolios and so on and so forth. Products will come.
Right.
But I don't believe that they will completely overtake the bottom-up investing that we spoke about.
Right.
It's not going to happen. I think they will coexist.
Right.
And I think that the world is large enough for all of us to live in comfortably.
Right. Got it, sir. So I think we've come to the final question. Let's go a little bit offbeat of investing, right? Because investment, like you initially had mentioned, it's a multi-faceted approach, right? You don't get to learn investing. You observe and you observe behavior and you become an investor over a period of time by multiple things, through multiple things. So with that in context, I wanted to ask you, what is the non-investment book that you've read that has had a profound impact on you, and what kind of things that book spoke about that still resonate with you?
See, you spoke about non-investment books.
Yeah.
So I can name two, which one was a book called I Am Right, You're Wrong.
Right.
It's by the eminent author Edward de Bono.
Okay.
The crux of this book is this: if argument A is right, it does not necessarily mean that argument B is wrong. They can both simultaneously be right, or they can be right on different occasions or seen from different perspectives.
Right. Right.
It's a very important lesson for investors to understand, because you can't have such rigidity in thinking when it comes to the investment world.
Right.
There are aspects which are important for a particular set of circumstances and which may not be relevant for a different set of circumstances. I think this is a important book to read.
Right.
There is another book called The Crowd.
Okay.
It's a short book.
Okay.
It's a very interesting book about the psychology of a crowd.
Right.
And it talks about how an individual who may think differently when he's alone,
Right.
when he or she is alone,
Right.
thinks differently when they are part of a crowd.
Right.
And it's very relevant for stock market investing.
Right. Right.
So
right.
I think these are two books. And of course, I am a great admirer of the Mahabharata. Which
Right.
I think it's a wonderful epic,
Right.
where there are no black or white. Everybody has different shades of grey.
Great. Got it.
And they give their perspectives. Even not only Yudhishthir or the Pandavas. Duryodhan gives his perspective.
Right.
Karna gives his perspective. Even Shakuni gives his perspective.
Right. 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 True. True. True.
So the willingness to look at somebody else's point of view,
Right.
I think will develop if we read the Mahabharata carefully.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank
It was
you. It's
wonderful.
been a pleasure, and it's a. I hope I have been able to convince at least a few of your viewers about the importance of this.
Absolutely.
This
I'm very
approach
sure.
to investing.
I'm very sure. I'm very sure, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
It's
you
our
for having
pleasure.
me.
Hopefully, like you rightly said, our viewers, I'm sure they will get something very valuable out of this conversation. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.